Hey everyone, I'm Hello everyone, I'm Aiden, and I like to build things, and today I want to look at something a little bit different from what's been on my channel so far. We have a kit that came out recently, last year actually, the high-grade walker machine Xabungle type. So still kind of fitting with my usual shtick on this channel, something a little bit more obscure, not a whole lot of people talking about it, and this is one of my favorites in that regard. Premium Bandai exclusive kit, but obviously not with the monochrome box. Honestly, it seems like this could have just been a standard retail kit. They just didn't, sort of like what most of their non-Gundam stuff is unfortunately turning into these days. Melancholy aside, why don't I give this a crack open here? And as you can see, I've already built it, but can take a moment to appreciate the runners here as they are, and there's actually quite a few of them in this kit. A multicolored A runner, of course, two other runners in blue, and these gray ones mostly for the weapons, two really small runners of white parts, and then what I find interesting, you'll see what this goes to in the kit in a second, but this dark blue color gets two parts only, and one whole runner to that, and then you get two of this runner here in clear, one of which has a lime green color, and the other is a darker green color. Yeah, and then obviously a manual, and I was expecting when I first got this kit, let me set these back down here so I can handle this with both hands. I expected this to be like a fold out, like roadmap style manual, but hopefully you can catch the shine of that there. This is a stapled booklet. Now, everything on the inside is in black and white, and purely for assembly, and then transformation, and then the back has the rest of our detail on it. But yeah, so it shows all of the crazy poses you can do with this kit. Mentions that if you live in Japan, Xabungle is streaming. Unfortunately not the case here in the West. You get a lovely photo of the retro Xabungle kit there, which kind of tempted to get, but I don't know. If it's anything like the Walker Gallia, I feel like might be a tad tedious. I got the Walker Gallia because it's my favorite mech from Xabungle. But yes, it also shows the lovely names of the transform mode. Yes, it is called the Bungle Skipper and the Bungle Rover. And then, I don't know if does it say it in this paragraph? Well, yeah. It says on the box for sure, I don't remember if it says it on here. It spells Jiron, the main character of Xabungle, his name with a G, but I'm kind of used to seeing it spelled with a J. Yeah, here we go. It says it here on the box. Jiron machine, but spelled with a G. I don't know. I feel like it being spelled with a J seems a little more right. Because I feel like if you spell it with a G, you might think it's pronounced Giron, but no, it's Jiron. But yeah, obviously I have the kit built. Why don't I take it out for you? And it's really tiny compared to how much parts it takes and how big its box is, but as you can see, that little runner of dark blue is just for the shins there. But aside from the white stripes on the head and the dark blue and white that's supposed to be in the toe vents there, every color is represented pretty accurately. And here we see why those two clear parts were separate colors. It's because the cockpit windows for the Bungle Skipper and Bungle Rover are in this darker color, whereas the Xabungle's head visor is in that more neon green. But yeah, so you have, it's a 1/144th kit, about the size of your standard Gundam kits, since the Xabungle and the RX-78 stand at basically the same height, not including the wings here. Yeah. Well, before I get too crazy here, I will include It does come with a bunch of extra stuff, so let me just set you aside here. I've saved a couple of odds and ends in here. We have the alternate arm parts to turn this into Giron's version of the machine, which basically just removes the wheel covers here on the forearms, and then you replace the wings with these, which earlier on in the show, because there is 2 Xabungles in the anime, for those who don't know. One of them loses its wings in a fight, and they do give you these pre-broken ones to replicate it. Along with the 2 hands that are on the kit, you get these really expressive splayed out hands. Like, these are the best splayed out hands I've seen on any kit at this scale, honestly. You don't really get something this dynamic in most Gundam kits, that's for sure, if you even get splayed out hands at all. You do get another option for the dome and the chest. This one is flat as opposed to the one that I have on the kit itself, which is rounded, but they both have that slit through the middle. These parts I'll save for talking about in a little bit later here. And then you have the various rocket launchers that it straps onto itself to, I guess, make it into the full armor Xabungle, which I can demonstrate at least partially here for you. I am going to refrain from removing the wheel covers while I'm recording here, just because it's a little fiddly, and I'm afraid if I do that too much, it'll weaken the plastic there or damage it, and don't want to do that since this kit is so special to me. But as you can, as you can see there, you have 2 holes on either shoulder next to where the head goes. If I can get you back in there. There you go. And then the weapons, the shoulder weapons, have little pegs in them as well, so you kind of have to fit them around the head. It's a little awkward. Hold on. Okay. It's a little easier to do when you're not trying to film yourself, which I feel like sort of goes without saying, but and then yeah, you can only put them on the sides like so, because the brackets that hold them on are different, but this is how it shows up in the show. And then another major piece of missing detail is on these weapons here. They don't really illustrate it that well in the color guide on the back of the manual, but the barrels of this gun and this gun are supposed to be a lighter gray than they are here. And then the missiles in here should be painted gray or black, whatever your liking is. And the holes on the back of it there should probably be black as well. Yeah, full armor Xabungle there. Now, I think where this kit really excels, aside from having basically everything you would need for a Xabungle, is the honestly insane articulation that this kit has. So I guess I'll talk about that now. The head on a ball joint can't really look up or down all that. It looks up a little bit, doesn't look down at all. You got to be careful with these antennae. I'm sure they're a break risk, and they only give you the 1 pair in this kit. You can spin it the whole way around without anything to get in its way. Obviously the wings move up and down if you want to angle those. Now we start getting into the really interesting stuff here. So the shoulders can raise 90 degrees there, and if you get the wing out of the way, until they hit the head, they can go up about that high as well. It's a very interesting series of hinges, and there's a ball joint in there, give you a little bit of back and forth at that point there, and then also allows it to swivel there all the way around the side, assuming you don't have the wing in the way there. Then you get the usual bicep rotation, a nice almost 180 degree bend out of that double jointed elbow with a blue joint, I might want to add, which is just another interesting quirk of this kit. It is accurate to the anime, that's why they did that. You do have a bit of hinging here at this wheel, but that's more for the transformation, which I'll talk about a little later here. Hands are on ball joints, as you'd expect. Not a whole lot to get in their way. Although if you have the gun in the right hand with the dedicated trigger finger. Also, only a trigger finger for the right hand here. Excuse me, none for the left. But because it has this bracket on it, obviously you can't rotate it, which does make posing it feel a little awkward since I'm so used to how Gundam kits pose. But moving on to the chest here, since the head doesn't have to collapse into it for its transformation, because this is obviously a parts forming kit, you do have a crunch, and a really decent ab crunch, I might say. Hopefully that's being conveyed pretty well for you here. And then it also works as a bit of a tilt too, since it's a ball joint that's holding that piece on in there. And then it swivels at this split in the middle here, which also, if you arc the back up, you can see that the combustion engine, because yes, Walker machines in Xabungle all run on gasoline and thus have piston engines running them. There is actually detail for that represented on this kit, although this part of the backpack, I guess you could call it, does sort of cover it up. But yeah, the swivel is done in the middle there. For the skirt armor, you do have these which hook in to, or they they don't hook in, but they tab in there to sort of help you keep them aligned, but you can raise them up. And then this skirt armor is separate from that, raises up underneath it. The front skirt armor, now, this is one of those kits where they come molded together, but you can separate them, although I have noticed that does severely weaken it, at least on my kit. But because of the shape of the skirt armor and then the shape of the torso there, it does have a bit of an issue going up like that, but you can get it up. Unfortunately, the back skirt is locked in place, but as you can see in there, it's your standard universal hip joint. Give you a kick out to the side pretty far, and then obviously it can go forward and back. It goes back a decent bit for a kit with no moving back skirt, but I guess it's so small that was probably a given. And then you get a nice 90 degrees out to the front here. Another really good point of articulation is this knee bend. For how blocky this kit is, I mean, I can't complain about that. And then yet again, another blue joint in there, which just feels really strange to me that there's a bit of gray in this kit. It's not actually for the inner frame, as it were. But yeah. Oh, and you do have a full bicep swivel as well. Forgot to mention that earlier. And then the feet is where I was really impressed with this kit's articulation. So, partially because of the transformation, they do collapse in pretty flat there, pretty blocky. You'd think that they wouldn't be able to move much because of the shape of it, and I mean, when you have it fully in there, they don't move a whole lot. However, this uses a hinge and a ball joint in a very lovely way to allow it to extend downward. Oop, I just pulled it off there. But there's a hinge in the foot, and then a hinge in the ball joint there itself, which allows you to pull it down to give you a crazy good pivot. It would go even further that way if the wing there wasn't in the way, which also folds on a double hinge like that. But it also allows the foot to go back a decent way, forward again, not a whole lot. But that's just because of the design of the shin there. But yeah, finding ground poses for this kit is not that difficult, and for a mecha that doesn't really do a whole lot of flying in the show itself, I think it really needed to have those crazy good ankle pivots. It's not Hyakushiki Revive good, but for a kit that's as blocky as this, I feel like that's pretty great. Yeah, so I'll try my best to show poses of this on camera to supplement my commentary here. But yeah, so aside from those missing colors on the accessories and the feet and the face, not a whole lot you need to do, and it honestly does look pretty great on its own. And if you're not like a big fan of Xabungle, I don't think you'd have a whole lot to really complain about in terms of the color here. And I'm only mentioning that because I wanted to point out that I am aware that that yellow vent in the crotch is not in all the way. I'm leaving that gap there so I can remove it, because I do intend on painting this. Hopefully this year, when the weather gets better, I should have everything I need for it. But anyway, So yeah, lovely articulation to this kit. Makes me really look forward to the Brockery that's actually coming out later this year, which I imagine is going to be very similar to this, the HG Brockery. And also makes me hope that the Walker Gallia gets a high grade, because that no grade kit has a lot of problems that do need the TLC. Sometimes it's nice to just have a sturdy little fella to just, you know, kind of play with a little bit. Even though these aren't really toys, they're model kits, but let's face it, you play with these. That's basically what you do when you pose them and take pictures of them and whatnot. And speaking of play, how about we get into that transformation? So, unlike something like the Motoroid Xabungle, this is not a perfect transformation type deal. However, the trade-off to that is it is a little more anime accurate when you do transform it. So, to start, funny because in the show it always starts in its vehicle modes and then combines into this. You never see it going the other way around, but to... Well, I guess that part gets a little loose over time. Let me try that again. You pop the 2 segments in half like this. There is a single peg in there that goes into that hole there. I'll start with the top half since I feel like it's the more interesting of the two. You do need to remove the hands, much like any parts forming kit, honestly, unless you're the Ashamar. Somehow that one was able to do its transformation without removing the hands. As you saw earlier, the head comes off, honestly, a little too easily, but better that than it getting stuck, I assume. And as long as you aren't too rough with the head, it's not that big a deal. But you have this groove there that goes into this, and that's all that holds that head in. So if you try to tilt the head too far forward, it will come out. I just dropped that on the floor. Not with those fragile antennae, I'm not going to let that happen. So I'm just going to close up these wings now for simplicity. You pull the arms forward like so, turn them like that, forward, turn, and then, oh, you got to do it like that. Use the full range of motion out of that shoulder joint there. Angle the wheels, and then they need to bend inwards and meet in the middle. You do get this grill detail to replace where the hands would go. It's also why the ball joint sockets are shaped like that, to help you make sure you put it in the correct direction, and then that'll also help. Getting it aligned, you make sure the wheels are angled in all the way, and then they rotate up here in the body, not in the wheel part itself. Rotate them down, make sure the chest is in there, and then the one last thing you have to put in are these pieces, which... wait a minute. I thought I had this transformation memorized. Give me 1 second here. Okay, I figured out what I did wrong there. You rotate the whole arm until you have a gap like this, and then there's a tab on the inside of that joint there. That is where the part is supposed to connect. So let me correct that real quick here. I was mistaking this partially for the Motoroid kit, where you have to do the angling of the arms like that. Try that one more time, get that all lined up there. And then you pop these parts in like so, which really is only there to cover up the exposed joints of the arms for when it is in the Xabungle car, or Bungle Skipper. Wait, which one is it? Yep, this is the Bungle Skipper. Don't doubt yourself. And yeah, Bungle Skipper in its car mode. These wheels do not spin freely. They don't really spin much at all. They're in there pretty tightly. And they're also kind of thin too, compared to something like the Motoroid kit. I think it is a little more accurate to the anime, obviously, and to the original Clover toy, though. And the model kits at the time. Here is where most of the parts forming comes in. However, this does have one interesting trick up its sleeve for its part of the transformation. These blue parts are a separate piece, not just for color accuracy, but they also hinge slightly. I hope I'm doing this. Okay, they don't hinge a whole lot, and if my camera would stop wobbling. They do that, and that is what locks the legs to keep them from collapsing on you when you're trying to pose the kit, so that you can get everything tucked in neatly here to begin the rest of the transformation here. You have this little piece here, which plugs into what is normally the stand adapter hole in the underside of the kit here. Gotta slide it in there. I think, actually, hold on. You're supposed to put this piece in. Yeah, you put this piece in. Come on, I'm supposed to be glazing you, but you're falling apart in my hands right now. Okay, there you go. You put that piece in there, and then you lock the legs in, like that. And it also gives you a new stand hole, for reasons I'll explain here shortly. Close up the tops, or close up the wings on the sides of the legs so they go over the top like this. There is teeth in them to help them lock together. Okay, try to collapse in the feet a little bit more. And we have something vaguely resembling a like a trailer or maybe even a truck here. But then that's when you break out this piece, which has the other clear piece on it, which tabs in there like that. And then, yeah, that's what you need for the Bungle Rover, which has its own little landing gear in the front. And then this will be my moment to mention, each of these do actually have all of their seats molded in underneath there. Even in the head of the Xabungle itself, although I do not think the way I'm filming this is going to pick that up. I'll try to put a picture on screen of what they look like. But yeah, you get the whole thing split into two vehicles here, which are about the size of Hot Wheel cars. I honestly think they're incredibly charming. That's a little better. Yeah, so two vehicles. And then obviously, if you're a Xabungle fan, the Bungle Skipper has an additional transformation where you open the wings, fold all the wheels down, and it's its own little flying machine. And then you can quickly unpop these, fold them down, and then these little winglets on the sides come out. The wings are held on by C-clips, that's why they keep coming loose here on me. But then you get the Bungle Rover in its flight mode. However, you can combine these back together in a way that isn't the transformation to the Xabungle itself. These are not wanting to fold properly. Yeah, the C-clips aren't great, but at the same time, at this size, I don't know how they would have been able to do that any other way. We're going to take the cockpit module out here, and then we have this massive blue part here, which goes in its place. Need to make sure everything's lined up right so it'll fit. And then you get another wheel back here, and then a trailer hitch too. And if I put this back into its car mode instead of its flight mode, that hole that was used to attach the legs to the upper body is now the trailer hitch for what is actually called the Xabungle car, or Optimus Prime but bootleg, because it's just a big vehicle with a trailer behind it. But they give you the option for that. Now, most of this blue piece here is supposed to actually be white. It's only this like garage door looking part here that's meant to be blue. As you can see, it's meant to be like a continuation of the wings, but that sort of transformation foolery is something that only really works in animation. It's why the Motoroid kit doesn't even try to do that. It just covered it up as much as it could with the wings that it has. However, one thing that it doesn't mention on the box, but I guess it's maybe sort of obvious that this is something it can do. If I take the cover of that off, put that back into its flight mode, put this back into its flight mode, we can recreate, jeez, actually, I swear this is easier to handle when you're not trying to film yourself. We can recreate the weird flying, fully combined thing that it does in the opening, but never actually does in the show. And I don't feel like I've seen anybody try to do this yet, so I just felt like putting it out there. Obviously, because of the connection to the lower half. The middle wheels can't be in their flight form, but you have what reminds me of the Double Zeta's, I guess, was it Fortress mode? Is that what it was called? You can do the weird Double Zeta fully combined flight form thing with the Xabungle like it does in the opening to the anime. And yeah, the transformation isn't terrible. It feels way more intuitive to me, honestly, than the Zeta high grades tend to, although that clicks with me a lot more because I'm a big fan of Wave Riders and Zeta transformations. But yeah, so while I focus on transforming this back into its Walker Machine mode, I'm going to give a couple of closing thoughts here on this kit. To repeat what I said about color accuracy, I mean, I do plan on painting it. I don't imagine the painting to be too terribly challenging. It's just a couple of white stripes that a bit of masking should be able to do the trick for. But that's could be just wishful thinking on my part, or me being a little too hopeful about my own painting ability. I guess time will tell on that one, and I'll probably update you guys on this review when I do plan on painting it, like how challenging that was. Although I will say, you might have noticed in the footage of me holding it there and just any of the additional footage I'm likely putting on screen right now, the nubs on this kit are absolutely horrendous, and that might be just me not cutting them the best. However, I did all of my cutting with this kit with my God Hand side cutter and a bit of knife work and a little bit of sanding, and some of them are just incredibly tenacious. It's actually kind of frustrating, I'm not gonna lie, and I think I might have overdone it on a couple of the cuts and scarred the plastic, which is no fun. But this shade of blue marks in white like really bad, and especially on some of the bigger pieces, like on the legs and the cover for the Bungle Skipper and its Bungle Rover, excuse me, in its trailer mode. They show up horribly, and I feel like that's something that you should definitely be aware of before buying this kit, because, you know, depending on your skill level with model kits, that could be a potential like problem for you, and might want to prepare accordingly for that. But yeah, I'll take this last little moment here just to do a bit of fun side-by-side comparisons here. So I'll do first as a physical kit, I'll put it next to my Figma Choromatsu, and the reason I'm using that again is because it is the only Figma figure I have. I'll put it next to one of my Nendroids, just for sake of example, and I'll put me and my wife's Sig Figs probably in the front there, just to give you a sense that, you know, this thing isn't crazy big. It's not small either. And then as a model kit, I'll just put it next to a couple of 1/144th scale kits in my collection. I will try to include my high-grade Vifom next to it, just to emphasize how short that kit is, which I just think that's funny. But I'll also put it next to a high-grade Gundam, so you can see how it stacks next to a average-sized mecha in the real robot space. And then, you know, anything else that I feel like would be a fun comparison, I'll try to make sure it's on screen there for you. But yeah, as you can see, it took me a lot less time to transform it back than it took me to transform it to, because I wasn't trying to put it on camera for any of my rambling there. But yeah, so aside from the killer nubs and lack of detail, I'm going to give this kit a 9 out of 10. I don't normally rank kits, just because I feel like that's a little silly and a lot of people are already doing that. I'm just trying to give you my raw opinion on these things, but I use that as just a way to convey this is a great kit, and I wish it wasn't locked behind P Bandai so more people could get it. And as I'm trying to get more high grades from non-Gundam shows, I'm just getting more and more of an appreciation for the love and care that Bandai and Bandai's designers put into these things. They feel more premium than some high grade releases that, at least the ones that I've built recently, Yeah, they have tiny little pieces, almost like real grade sized ones. They pose beautifully, they build beautifully, and they don't need a whole lot of paint on your end to look their best. So if you find this kit available, or if Bandai restocks it at any time after I put this video out, I implore you to pick one up, even if you haven't seen this show, just because, I mean, it's so unique compared to mobile suits that are out there. And it does quite a lot for you, and at only about $40, depending on where you're getting it from, of course. It's a little on the pricey side for how small it is, but for how much it does, I think that's worth it. But I'm a huge Xabungle fan, so I think that's worth it regardless for something like this. Yeah, thank you all very much for watching this video. I hope it helped you decide if you want to pick one of these up for yourself. Stick around for more videos. I am trying to keep consistently with uploading here, although, you know, real life stuff always makes that difficult for any YouTuber, really. Yeah, I'm going to try focusing more on kit reviews going forward than just simply unboxing stuff, because these are the meat and potatoes of what's in those boxes. I feel like that should be the emphasis of this channel. But since I did a teaser for what's to come in my last video, why don't I give you guys a sneak peek at what I want to try making my next video about here. I think I'm going to have to call an exterminator. I have a bug problem, everybody. You all have a lovely, lovely day, lovely evening, lovely night, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you have a good one. See you in the next video.